Now, I don't know how long it's been, but we're back with an MLB segment. And because we don't do these a lot, you know that if we're doing an MLB segment, that it's got to be something pretty good. And it is. It's pretty big news. It's something that, according to ESPN, hasn't happened in a century. And that is, if you haven't heard the news, I'm gonna butcher this guy's name. Um, Tusupita Marcano. He was a player for the San Diego Padres, and the reason he is in the news is because it was found out that he placed hundreds of bets on baseball, including bets on his own team when he was with the Pittsburgh Pirates. Um, and because of that, the MLB reached out and said, "We can't have you doing that." And the thing that hadn't happened in more than a century is they banned him for life. He is no longer allowed to play baseball in the MLB for as long as he lives. Um, it was the first, yeah. Here's what ESPN said: the first active major leaguer banned under the sports gambling provision since New York Giants outfielder Jimmy O'Connell in 1924. Um, yeah, that is.
Well, sports
I guess
betting is
the
definitely
other
made it
thing was going on.
easier.
What's that?
Sports betting has probably made it a
The
lot easier to find people to ban if I were to bet.
It's true. It's true. And we can get into that. I think the one last thing I want to say is like I think what the name that comes to mind a lot when you think about baseball and betting and people getting banned is Pete Rose. Um, but that lifetime ban was while he was managing the team. So this is the first time in a century that it has happened to a player, a current
That makes
player.
sense. Yeah. And
So
I meant online betting. I think I said sports betting, but you get the
yes,
general
yeah.
idea. Yeah.
I think in general. I think you look at how not just in baseball in every sport, you look at how widespread sports betting has become. Like I don't know how it is if we have viewers in the States, but you look at like Sportsnet, every intermission of every hockey game, there's betting ads. You have cabbie shilling for betting
Well,
like
and I
at
also
every
want to
point
say,
in
I'll
podcast.
just this is kind of like a tangent a little bit, but I went there. So I'm, if it's not obvious, in case anybody might have not watched the intro, I'm in Mexico. That's why there's palm trees behind me. I don't just normally live in whatever weird place it probably looks like I live in. This is very odd for me. But anyway, I decided to go find the gym here because I didn't feel like gaining 15 pounds. I probably ended up gaining 10 anyway, but it doesn't matter. And I decided to go box. And they had TVs in like the room they had the punching bag set up in, and on those screens, like it was all in Spanish, so I had no idea what was actually happening. But on those screens, they just started showing like the lines, like the sporting lines, or the betting lines, and I was like, oh, can't even escape it here. Like it's clearly not something that's just happening here in Canada, or not there in Canada, I guess. But it's something that's clearly happening worldwide, and it's just the world we live in, I guess, where everywhere I look, I see sports betting, and it's just great.
Yeah. And I can't say that I know as much about how much the MLB has been pushing it, but I don't know. You see this in the NFL where I look at some of the things and I'm like, I'm a young football player who's just been given a lot of money and I see how much betting is promoted at a lot of these NFL channels. Like you probably do know the rules, and that yes, it is still stupid to do it. It's still stupid to bet on games. Like it should be a no-brainer. But at the same time, like I think there's a reason it's happening now. It's just because of how much more it's kind of being shoved in people's faces, and like the heel turn that's happened from it being this taboo thing, which I don't think that was the answer either, but to being like wholeheartedly like accepted and pushed on people. Like even as I'm reading this ESPN article, a big header right next to like all of the league logos is ESPN bet, right? Like I do think I just think it's so interesting.
We
Like you see all of these scandals start coming up. I wonder why. I wonder why with this
Yeah,
timing.
you got to think there's some sort of like middle ground. Like, it doesn't need to be pushed as much.
Yeah.
I'd be okay if they like brought it up occasionally. Like, I think the way that we do it is kind of not to pump ourselves up at all or anything. It's not like we do anything that's like anything out there. That's not what I'm trying to say. I'm not trying to say what we do is anything near incredible, but like I think bringing it up to as a talking point, like this team is clearly favorited, right? Like that's a good way to bring it up, right? But you don't need to be like, here's 7 lines that you should put your house on, and if you don't do it, you're a coward. Like we can leave all that we can leave all that behind. Like, just bring it up when it makes sense to. Like, bring it up in conversation. You don't have to shove it down our faces by throwing it, like, underneath the ESPN logo and throwing it here and throwing it there. Like, it's too much. It is way too much. I wonder to a point what even people who do sports bet and sports gamble have to say on that. Like, because I know me and you, we're both on the one side of the argument where I don't bet on sports. I don't think you bet on sports at all. Like, it's just
No.
It's both for both of us. We're clearly on one side of the fence. I have no issue if they like occasionally throw it at me. It's not like every time I see a gambling line, I'm like, oh no, those. It's not like I care that much. I just don't. Excuse me. I don't think they need to be showing it every 10 seconds or even close to the amount that they're showing it now. And obviously the big reason that they're showing it as much as they are is sponsors, money, all of that fun stuff. Because a big sponsor now for Sportsnet is whatever gamble. I don't even remember what gambling site they're with, but whatever it is, like I'm sure they make a lot of money off that, which is exactly why it's probably not going to change. Realistically, we're talking to a wall. It's like everybody complains about it, but people have been complaining about it for 2 or 3 years at this point, right? Like that's not new. Like this is at this point.
Yeah.
At this point, this has been happening for a little bit here, which is again a reason I'm not that surprised, I guess, that I was seeing it even here in Mexico. Like, at the end of the day, it's something that we should probably just learn to live with, and I have. I think at this point, I don't notice it as much as I did when it first started happening. But it's definitely a big part of it. Also, before I don't know when we want to bring up what this guy's winning percentage was. Betting on himself, it was like 4.3%. Which makes it so much funnier, because not only was he betting on himself, which just isn't smart. Like, you shouldn't bet on yourself in any situation unless you know you're going to lose. If you're taking a dive, I guess that makes sense, but I don't think that was the case.
You pull a Jonte Porter.
Yeah, exactly.
Where you just bet that you're going to suck and then you get injured.
Right? But no, this guy seriously had the nerve to bet his entire life savings on himself and then lose his job. What an idiot. Holy smokes. How do you do that? Maybe he was just trying to not get caught. Like, that's kind of what I wonder, or maybe he placed like a bunch of 99-cent bets and then placed like one $100,000 bet or something. I don't know if you actually have the numbers on that, right? But like maybe he ended up positive at the end of the day. But like, it's just crazy that ended up happening. Like, how do you only win 4.3% of the time? Are you betting like on like 1 in a million? Like,
So he bet. So this is directly from this ESPN article. It said he bet almost exclusively on the outcomes of games and lost. This is the point. That's fun. He lost all of his parlay bets involving the Pirates. So all of the times he bet on his own team, he lost. He didn't win a single one. So yes, 4.3% overall, but he didn't win a single one with the Pirates. And I mean, yes, absolutely, to your point, what an idiot. I think is the right way to say it, because I do think it's important to bring up, like, I think we're kind of on the same mindset of this. Like, I don't love how proliferated the messaging around sports gambling has been in terms of just like it being pushed to us. But I want to like make sure that I say this. I am not against it whatsoever. I think it's great that it's been legalized, because I mean, you do what you want to do with your own money. I think it's more of an issue that I have with just like how much that the big heel turn, where it's like saying oh no, we're going from it's so taboo to we're promoting it like every 5 seconds on every network. So there's that point. I also think even despite that, even despite how much is being promoted on like sports networks and stuff, yes, this guy is still such an idiot. There's still no excuse for this, even though I do think just how much is being promoted probably has a part to play in that. It's still so stupid. I think this is another interesting thing from the ESPN article that it points out, saying that posted in every single clubhouse, so he would have known this, states exactly what the rule is in terms of betting, which is betting on any baseball game that the player is not involved in, automatic 1 year suspension. Betting on any game that the player is involved in, which obviously this guy did, is a lifetime ban. Um, yeah, and that's pretty cut and dry. Like the guy's an idiot. I don't know how you can't read that and just say, well, no shit. If I wasn't going, like, you shouldn't be betting on your own games anyways. And there's no way he doesn't know this if it's posted in.
I have a funny feeling he knew exactly what he was doing. It would be pretty.
Like,
I get your point. I get your point, but it's like I don't think he just accidentally went, oh, really? I can't bet on myself? Oh. No, he knew what he was doing. And that's the funny thing at the end of the day, right? Where it was like, you knew what you were doing, you messed up, and you made no money. It's like the one thing you were trying to possibly do with your whole thing there was like, no, completely out the window. Didn't do anything with it, which is why I almost feel like the conversation was like, were you trying to get caught? Like, what was the point of that? What was your end goal?
Yeah.
You won 4.3% of the times, none of which on the Pirates. Were you just trying to test the rule? Like, even if you won nothing in all of your bets on the Pirates, am I still going to get banned? Well, yeah, of course you're still going to get banned. You still broke the rule. Even if I tried to kill people 26 times and I never actually did it, I'd still get charged for attempted murder. Like, it's not like I need to do it to get the thing, right? Like, it's, at the end of the day, no matter what, you're going to get something, which makes it so funny. Like, it's just insanely funny. Yeah. Like, we're saying all this stuff about, like, how it's been advertised and all that. I don't feel bad for him. Like, what he did was just stupid.
Oh, God, no. God,
yeah,
no.
like, what he did was just plain old stupid. Like, at the end of the day,
it was stupid.
Yeah, like, it's you, I don't even know. Like, how do you do that to yourself? Like, other than, like...
Yeah.
You honestly just, like, completely ruined everything for yourself. You were going to make... Even if you were on, like, the shittiest contract in the MLB, you're still making more money than almost any average person. Like, not even almost, pretty much any average person, and you're set. You're set pretty much for life, assuming you don't mess something up badly. I'm sure you'll get some sponsors like, no, I'm just gonna bet on myself, and we'll see what happens. Spin the wheel.
Yeah, yeah, and yeah. Like you said, I think it makes it. Your point was that he probably knew what he was doing, and I agree with that, which makes it all the more stupid, right? Like. There's no way he didn't know that he's gonna get banned for this, and I just don't like. I don't know. In a lot of these segments where it's like there's kind of one opinion that I think we both like disagree with, or there's one side we both disagree with, I'll often try to play devil's advocate and try to see where people are coming from. But in this situation, I can't even fathom, like I can't even like start to form any sort of logic as to why you would do something like this. Like. I don't know. It doesn't make it... Even if you don't know this rule, it's just like... How do you assume you're not going to get in trouble for something like this? I don't know. I think it's so stupid.
What I think... I personally think, like... I'm the type of person who, in most things that I do, I like to bet on myself. Not in that way, but I like to bet on myself in my own head, right? Where, like, you put all your chips on one thing... and you just give it your all and you see what happens, right? Like, in a lot of... And the funny thing is I don't bet. I don't gamble at all, which is what makes that whole mindset just so insanely dumb. But, like, that is how I look at a lot of things. So even, like, when I ran competitively, you got, like, every race you go into, I'm winning. That's all that's happening. There is no other outcome here. I'm not prepared for if I lose. I'm going to win this race. And it's that type of thing. And if you had asked me before that race, would you put money on yourself to win? I would have said yes. And that mentality is the type of thing where, like, the only way I can imagine is I am going to put money on myself to hit a home run in this game. And if he was doing that, and I got 0 of them, absolutely none, holy shit. How are you betting on yourself at all?
It is a good point to say that he wasn't actually betting on himself in that way, because I don't know if it says it in this article, but I did read elsewhere. He was in. Oh, it does say here. He was injured. He had a season-ending knee injury, so he didn't actually play in any of the games that he bet on while he was a member of the Pirates. I don't know if that makes it worse or better.
Yeah, I think he just got bored. So, like, if I have to watch all these damn games, I might as well put some money on.
Do you honestly think that's it? I don't think. I think that's probably the best explanation we've come up with so far.
I do know people who, like, actively, the main reason they bet on sports isn't to make money, or isn't to, like, because they think they're going to end up on top. They're just like, I am going to sit here and watch this basketball game for 2 hours. I don't really like basketball that much. I don't know a lot about it. I don't know the players, but if I put $20 on this team to win, this gets a lot more interest. Now I'm following it. Now I'm, like, in it. Now I'm in it like I'm a fan, right? So, and that, I do get that. I get that. Like, that is the only situation I can imagine myself really betting on anything, because my logic will forever be, there's no way I'll ever make money. I think that I will say, I think I know quite a bit about the UFC, for example. Like, I think going into a lot of fights, I am generally right on my picks. But generally right doesn't mean always right, and there's always upsets. So I think, I don't know. It's always very, very entertaining to watch all the people who are like, this pick will go through for sure. If you think that guy's going to win, you're an idiot. And then the other guy wins, and you see them, like, the next week, and they're just, like, hungover, hands, like, on their face. The whole world has fallen apart. They brought their own coffee from home because they didn't want to buy from Tim Hortons or Starbucks. Like, it's that type of day for them, and you're just like, all you can do is laugh. And it's I don't know. Yeah. Enjoy sports gambling however you want to. I'll never judge. But, like, I guess,
unless you're a member of the
team.
I think that's the one asterisk you have to put. Yes, enjoy sports gambling however you want. It's your money. You do whatever you want with it, unless you're part of the MLB or NHL or NFL. Just don't do that. If we want to wrap up the segment, I just will put this out to you. Do you think that a lifetime ban is justified? Like, if you're in the situation, you're Rob Manfred, you're deciding how long to suspend him for, lifetime is pretty strict.
Especially compared to, like, what people get for, like, DUIs and, like, hitting their
domestic
spouse.
Assault
like, it's on that sense, it's pretty wild, like, to say the least, that's the case. Like, domestic abuse ends up getting 10 games while this guy got bored one lunch and decided to place 247 bets that he lost and lost his entire career. Like, I don't know, man. It's pretty harsh, but at the same time, you're a dumbass. I don't know if any team, I imagine, even if it wasn't a permanent ban and it was a year, do you really think he's back on the Pirates the next year? I don't think so. I think the Pirates cut him.
No.
I'm sure the MLB lets him cut them. And then I'm sure he's gone forever, into the wind, and we would have never heard his name again. And I think that'll be the case. I think no matter what, he's done in the MLB. Whether it be a year, whether it be 6 months, I think he's done. He's not a big name. I don't think there would have been a lot of redeeming things that would have kept him around is kind of the point I'm trying to land on. He didn't have an interpreter to blame. He didn't have any of that stuff. Like, it just wasn't there for him. And at the end of the day, I don't know. I think he would have been done no matter what. So it feels like at that point you're just like, doesn't matter. Like, cool, lifetime ban's cool, but he would have been gone no matter what.
Yeah.
He's not Pete Rose, I guess, is another way to say it. He's not Pete Rose, where people are like,
people aren't going to be upset about it.
It's not, exactly. It's not like he's a legend. Like, if Mike if Mike Trout did what he was doing, it'd be a very different conversation now, right? Because I wonder, the MLB is going to ban one of their biggest stars of the last like almost 15 years. That would be a pretty crazy thing. But no, this guy's not Mike Trout. He's not Shohei Ohtani. He doesn't have an interpreter. No one cares.
Yeah, and I think, I mean, it is interesting with like the Ohtani stuff. I mean, let's say there was no, obviously, like I think it's that has sort of settled, and the interpreter has pled guilty. So that's kind of all behind us at this point. But let's say it was actually Ohtani who was betting on games, and let's say the interpreter, I don't think, ever bet on baseball. But let's say like Ohtani did bet on an MLB game. The rule's pretty black and white. If you bet on games that you are like you're part of the organization, lifetime ban. I just wonder if they do the same for their star players or if they'd hold back. I think that conversation would get very interesting. Hopefully you don't get to that point. Hopefully star players would have people around them to be like, hey, don't do this, or they just wouldn't be that stupid. But yeah, I do think it's a big thing. I think you see this more in baseball than any other sport. You obviously have a big history with it, more than any other sport. I believe it was the 1919 World Series that most people believe was fixed, where the White Sox were paid to tank the series. But yeah, I think it's really interesting. I think there was a couple other gambling suspensions that were announced alongside this. Obviously nowhere near as bad, no other lifetime bans. But I just think it'll be interesting to see how this integration of sports gambling into the kind of modern cultural lexicon of talking about sports. I think it'll be really interesting to see how that influences how the MLB will carry out things, because this is just the starting point. And when we eventually see a big name, because at some point it'll happen, how are they going to handle that? I think that's the biggest question I take from this going forward. Because you're right, if this guy just got a 1-year suspension, nobody would have cared, and he wouldn't have been able to sign anywhere. But it does set a very interesting precedent. Lifetime ban, it's a big deal, black or white. We'll see how this goes forward, carrying into the future. Thank you everybody for watching. I'm going to say this as fast as I can, so